Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Stuart. I'm the co-founder of Utradea, a platform for investment ideas and insights. Today, we're going to be taking a look at NIO, N-I-O. What I'm going to walk through today is something a little different than maybe you've seen online. Really, I'm going to get into the social sentiment trend we saw recently for NIO. And this will give us a chance to dive into the trend, how it's impacted the stock price, how you can use it to kind of keep track of NIO if you are an investor or if you're thinking about investing in NIO. It's a good way to keep track of what's going on, the trends that are kind of impacting this particular stock as well as other stocks in the market. So without further ado, let's dive in. What I'm showing you right now is our social sentiment dashboard. So this is something we created from scratch, but essentially it leverages machine learning and allows us to track the top trending tickers across Twitter, Reddit, and Stocktwits. What we noticed is that NIO was starting to trend early this morning. What I'll show you here quickly is essentially a view of the impressions. So this is how many people are seeing tweets that are related to NIO, N-I-O. So if you look over the last 24 hours, kind of yesterday, afternoon in the market, as well as overnight, there weren't that many impressions. So not a lot of people tweeting about NIO, which kind of makes sense. Typically, if it's stock that's somewhat followed, there isn't much of a change day to day. But what was interesting is if you start to look at market open today, right around 8 o'clock, 8:30, we saw a significant increase. So all of a sudden, impressions jumped up from an average of about, let's say, 50,000 all the way to 250,000. And what we can do is jump over to the users. So this lets us see who's tweeting about it and what they're tweeting. So looking at 8:30 this morning, we noticed that Seeking Alpha released an article. Is NIO stock currently undervalued or overvalued? Buy only as a speculative play. Now, the way we interpret this is it can either go both ways. It's either positive or negative sentiment, but the big thing that we like to track is what's called social momentum. So when people start to see tweets about NIO and it reaches a lot of people, it tends to garner more interest, more eyes on it, and that typically impacts the price because more people are seeing it, more people tend to trade it. So if we jump over to the actual market, so what was happening at this point in time, we can see that the previous day, we're closing at about just shy of $18 a share. And then you'll see, some nice solid green candles just as markets open today and drove the price up from, like I said, around $18 a share all the way up to around $20 a share. Now, the reason I bring this up is because if we go back to impressions, before market opens, you can see there's already this big spike, which means people are talking about NIO, people are thinking of investing in NIO, and that's usually a positive trend that you like to see. So just recapping, with the social dashboard, you can essentially see which tickers are trending. In this case, NIO came across the screener because of this increase in impressions, which we consider social momentum. It landed in the top 10 leaderboard, which is quite good considering the other tickers that are typically trending. And really that indicates, could be perceived as a solid buy signal. So that's how we use the social sentiment dashboard to track it. What I'll do now is just jump over to the stock page itself. Again, if you're already familiar with NIO, you probably don't need to hang around and listen to this. But if you're thinking of investing in NIO or just looking for a bit of an update, I'll walk through some things that I find interesting. So what we have here is just an overview, typical information, what's the day range, 52-week range, etc., description of the company. A bit of a breakdown in terms of the revenue per share, enterprise value. This is kind of a nice thing to see. The enterprise value going up significantly quarter over quarter. It's a good sign. Earnings, obviously a little bit mixed from quarter to quarter, a few misses, a few hits. I typically don't like to play earnings. Some people do, and this kind of gives you a a great overview of what's happening from an earnings perspective. News, as an investor, you always want to be keeping an eye on news, what people are saying about the stock you're invested in. I always take it with a grain of salt. Typically, these publications are just looking for people to view their news articles. So they're looking for traffic, clicks. So a lot of the headlines will be, kind of kind of BS if you think about it. Ignore the bearish calls and invest in NIO. Why they popped today. NIO stock continues to sell off. What's next? I wouldn't pay a ton of attention to it, but it's just something to kind of keep an eye on. One of the good signs that stood out was what I call the analyst and Wall Street targets. So again, I don't put a ton of stock in what analysts say, but again, it's a good almost proxy, we'll call it, to validate what you're thinking. And as you see, pretty much all these banks have issued buy ratings for NIO. What's interesting is these four here, Barclays, Macquarie, Deutsche Bank, as well as Bernstein, were all previously at a hold, and they've now initiated a buy signal kind of over the last few months, which if we look at kind of the price of NIO over the last little while, obviously it's dropped from all-time highs back in January of 21, which again, most stocks were inflated at that time. Really, a lot of these have initiated a buy rating over the last few months, and I don't foresee it staying at this price, to be honest, for much longer, just based on kind of where the market's heading in general, as well as, again, like I said, the analyst ratings, Wall Street targets, and just how it's been performing the last little while. That's all I have on NIO. I'll leave the links below. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you can, and I look forward to chatting with you guys. Have a good one.